أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا محمد وأهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. My dear elders, brothers, sisters, children, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We have gathered here tonight for the Thursday weekly lecture that you have in this venue. But this week also coincided with the Arbaeen of Aba Abdullah al-Husayn alayhi salam. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad, which we commemorated yesterday. So commemoration of the day of Arbaeen was a master plan which was designed and planned right from the time of the Prophet. When we look at the ahadith, and scholars say they narrate ahadith from the Holy Prophet, and more so during the sixth Imam's time, whereby it is narrated that when you go for the ziyarah of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, you are rewarded for every step that you take. So clearly a step has been mentioned, and the ulama say that this is what brings about the walk now that people have been implementing for the past few years. But then it was sealed at the time of the 11th Holy Imam, whereby he gives a hadith describing the 5 signs of a mu'min, in which one of them is the one who visits Aba Abdullah al-Husayn on the day of Arbaeen, or the one who recites Ziyarat Arbaeen. So a plan that was hatched, a plan that was made so many years back, thousands of years back, and now we see the fruits emerging. This year we had 24 million people walking from different parts of Iraq towards Karbala. Not only Shias, yes, majority Shias, but people of all denominations. We had Sunnis, we had Christians, we have Hindus. All of them, after finding out and being curious as to what is happening, this is the biggest gathering in the world, how come there is no coverage in the mainstream media? So they travel all the way to Iraq just to witness it themselves and then write stories back home. So it is a walk, it is a movement now that has a potential, or it's already started developing into a snowball. As you know, a snowball starts small, but as it rolls downhill, it collects more snow and becomes bigger and bigger. So it has been increasing year after year. The numbers have been increasing, but for those of you, or for those of us who witnessed the messages that were given out in this Arbaeen, the Quranic verses that were displayed, Bain al-Haramain, very relevant Quranic verses. You must have seen the clips. So the gender issue, LGBT issue was addressed, unity was addressed, standing against the enemies was addressed. And this has a potential to now spill out of Iraq. So it's already spilled into the streets of Nigeria now, whereby the walk of Arbaeen is happening. Of course, it's been happening in Iran also. So it's amazing. It's a concept that is growing, and it has a potential to grow into a very, very strong movement in the future, and we need to keep our eyes on it. But the secret of this walk is not only to accomplish this journey from Najaf to Karbala, or from different parts of Iraq to Karbala, or from our countries to Iraq. The whole idea is to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. This was the message that was given out by Ayatollah Khamenei yesterday when he was talking to the youngsters and students. He says the spirit should be to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. That should be the spirit of this walk. So this is much easily said than done. Walking on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam is no easy task. So my favorite ziyarah, we recite Ziyarat al-Waritha every Thursday. And the favorite part is after Ziyarat al-Waritha, whereby we recite the ziyarah of the friends or of the awliya Allah, the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Assalamu alaikum ya awliya Allahi wa ahibba'a. Assalamu alaikum ya asfiya Allahi wa widda'a. Assalamu alaikum ya ansara dinillah. This ziyarah is very special because these people were simple people like us. But there's something that they did, and they decided to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam with a very firm heart. They worked very hard to qualify for this station, whereby now they are addressed as awliya Allah, ansar Allah. So these were normal people who can become role models for us. And we have to learn from them if we want to start working or walking on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So Sheikh Abbas Qummi has described a few of these companions, but not in detail. We don't know their day-to-day lives. He's described the bayan as to what was their war cry and a little bit of background, but we don't have much details about them. Or maybe we have some literature, but it's not in English. But the Shuhadaa of our time, so the Shuhadaa of the Iran-Iraq war, which was not a war between Iran and Iraq as it is described. They were not fighting because they were nationalists, but the fight was to save Islam, because the whole thing was designed in response to the first Muslim or first Shia government to be formed on earth after the Holy Prophet or after Imam Ali alayhi salam. So when you look at the biographies of the Shuhada of the Iran-Iraq war, now we have the details. We have books and books that have been written. Shaheed Ibrahim Hadi, Mohsen Hujaji, Mustafa Shamran. Biographies and biographies have been written about these people. And we get to know about these people who've also decided to walk on the path of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So now we have a chance to look into their lives. And the Shuhada of Mudafi'a Haram, the people who came out to protect the Haram in Syria. Those Shuhadas also, more recently, their biographies are coming out now slowly. We can take them as role models if we really want to learn how to walk on these footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So Ziyarat Arbaeen that we recited yesterday, whereby we address Imam Hussein alayhi salam, we tell him, وَقَلْبِي لِقَلْبِكُمْ سَلْمٍ, which is also seen in Ziyarat al-Waritha. My heart is at peace with you all. وَأَمْرِي لِأَمْرِكُمْ مُتَّبِعٍ, and all my affairs are based on your commands. Yes, we recite it, but are we ready to live by these verses? وَنُصْرَتِي لَكُمْ مُعَدَّةً, and my support for you all is already, and it's all set. حَتَّى يَعْذَنَ اللَّهُ لَكُمْ, until Allah permits you. Then فَمَعَكُمْ مَعَكُمْ لَا مَعَ عَدُوِّكُمْ. So I'm with you, and I'm with you, and not with your enemies. These are easily recited, but when we really reflect, when I reflect on myself, there's a lot of work to be done. Even Ziyarat Ashura, we recite when we go into the sajda after the ziyarah. We say, وَثَبِّتْ لِي قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ عِنْدَكَ, and make for me with you a firm step of honesty. So قَدَمَ صِدْقٍ is mentioned here again. مع الحسين وأصحاب الحسين الذين بذلوا مهاجم دون الحسين عليه السلام. So the question comes up that I want to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. I have role models in the form of the companions of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. But now I have other role models in our times who have made an effort to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. So where do I start? What are the qualities that I need to take? What are the qualities that I need to work on? So there's a book by the name of Sacred Effusion, you must have heard about it, written by Sheikh Muhammad Khalfan of Qum. It's a commentary on Ziyarat Ashura that we recite, but it's a commentary in 2 volumes, and it's beautiful. In detail, he mentions the meaning of each and every word that has been used in Ziyarat Ashura. So he says, why is Imam Hussein alayhi salam addressed as Aba Abdillah? So one of the reasons is one of his sons who was mercilessly martyred on the plains of Karbala, Abdullah Radi, was the son of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. Since he was the father of Abdullah, he's called Aba Abdullah, Aba Abdillah. That is one reason. But the second reason he mentions is in Arabic culture, you have something called kunniya, or a title that you are addressed by. So they don't call you by name, but they give you a title. And the title is based on your characteristic, a characteristic that stands out in you. So for example, a person who is generous is called Abu Jawad. Person who is known for his generosity is called Abu Jawad. They put the word Ab. Doesn't mean that he is the father of Jawad, but he's so generous, this generosity stands out so much in him that he's given this title, Abu Jawad. So Aba Abdillah al-Hussein was given this title of Aba Abdillah 7 days after he was born by the Holy Prophet himself. With tears in his eyes, he gives him this title. But the meaning was, Aba Abdillah means a person whose servitude to Allah stands out so much. He's an abd. He's a servant of Allah, he's a slave of Allah. And it stands out so much that he's given this title of Aba Abdillah. So this is one of the other reasons that has been given. So who is an abd now? If we call Imam Hussein alayhi salam Aba Abdillah, he was the true servant, the true slave of Allah, then what were his characteristics because of which he was given this title? Who is a real abd? Who is a real slave? Who is a real servant? So in the Holy Quran, Surah Furqan, chapter 25, verse number 63 onwards, there's a description of Ibadur Rahman, who are the slaves of the All-Merciful One. Ibadur Rahman, the characteristics have been given. Almost 8 to 10 characteristics of the Abd, of the Ibadur Rahman have been mentioned. And if we call Imam Hussein alayhi salam Aba Abdillah, that means he excelled in these characteristics. Not only him, but his companions too. And if you see the title of tonight, it's Walking on the Footsteps of Shuhadaa. I did not write Walking on the Footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, because as I said, Imam Hussein alayhi salam may be very high. His companions were also high, but we want to look at people in our times whom we can take as role models. So when we look at the lives of the Shuhadaa of our recent times, they also show these features of Ibadur Rahman. So if you are looking for a place to start walking on the footpath, on these footsteps of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, this is where we need to start. So, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim wa ibadur rahman alladhina yamshuna ala al-ardi hawna wa idha khatabahumul jahiluna qalu salama. The two features that have been mentioned here. And the servants of the beneficent Allah are they who walk on the earth with humbleness. So it's all about the walk now. We have the walk of Arbaeen. We are walking on the footsteps now of Imam Hussein alayhi salam. The first characteristic is to walk with humility. So the Mufassirin of Quran say, okay, it is not about walking, it's not about your gait, it's not about your walking style, it's not about walking on the streets with your head bent down that shows your humility. No. Walking here means in all walks of your life. So the way you talk, the way you speak, the way you hear, the way you eat, and our actions should all be full of humility. This is the first sign of an Ibadur Rahman. So they say it's internal humility that shows out in the form of actions. So it's not just to show off outside, but there's so much humility within them that it just radiates into their actions outside. John Gottman, you must have heard of him, he's a top counselor, a marriage counselor. And in his university, he set up a love lab. He calls it a love lab. He set up a laboratory and he studied thousands of couples, almost 2,000 couples. He's invited them, they've come to this love lab. He makes them sit there and then they have a conversation. And he's sitting behind a glass there, looking at this couple conversing, and he's done a research. And Malcolm Gladwell has written about him that John Gottman has the capacity to eavesdrop. So if you are sitting with your wife on a table in a restaurant, John Gottman can come close by, sit on the neighboring table and just look at you, or maybe listen to what you're talking, and within 5 minutes, he can predict with 95% accuracy as to whether this couple is going to survive for more than 5 years. So Malcolm Gladwell has written about him, that how does he do it? So he's interviewed him, that how can you do this? How can you predict? What is it that you're looking for in this couple? So he's mentioned 4 characteristics. This is not a marriage session, so we are not going to talk about all but he says the top one, which confirms my diagnosis, or which confirms my thought process, or which gives me a conclusion that this couple is not going to survive, he says is contempt. Contempt in Kiswahili is kudarao. So when he's looking at a couple talking to each other, the moment he sees their body language and there's a smallest amount of contempt, kudarao. So even a facial expression like rolling the eyes up, yeah, whatever, it's a sign of contempt. So they don't have to say it, but just the body language, the moment he sees contempt, he predicts this couple is not going to survive for more than 5 years. Of course, along with the other 4, with the other 3 characteristics that he mentions. And contempt only happens when you sense, or when you have a sense of superiority in you, and you look at the other with an inferior, this person is inferior, he's lower than me, or she is lower than me. So it's lack of humility, and this is a disaster for a marriage, and in any walk of life. So humility is the first criteria of an Ibadur Rahman. So if we want to walk on the footsteps of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, we need to build up internal humility within ourselves, something that will radiate in our actions. And this is the beauty about the Arbaeen work. For those of you who have gone, and for those of you who haven't, inshallah, may Allah bless you to witness this miracle. The walk is such that the most superior or the most prominent personality in a community or in a family, the environment is such that you just become humble when you start the walk. The way you eat, the way you sleep, and the way when you see people serving you around, it brings about so much humility. Unfortunately, for most of us, it lasts only for 3 days, and maybe maximum 10 days for as long as the mawqibs are there. It's giving us a taste of what life is going to be after the reappearance of the 12th Holy Imam. It's the establishment of an ideal Islamic government where everybody around is humble. There is humility all around. There is no sense of superiority. Yes, along with this, ulamas mentioned that no, when it comes to facing enemies of Islam, then there is no humility there. You need to stand up. And if you are negotiating with them, you negotiate from a position of power, not that you become humble in front of them to gain favors from these enemies of Islam. So this is the criteria that is being used by the ulama. When we look at the Shuhadaa, we have stories of an army commander during the Iran-Iraq war, when his soldiers, he was a top commander himself, at night when his soldiers would sleep in the tent, he would go outside and pick up their shoes and polish the shoes of his soldiers. We have stories of Haji Qasim Sulaimani, when he would organize a majlis in his house, in his hometown. People could not see him. Where is he? And he would be in the washroom cleaning the toilets out of humility. Mohsen Hujaji, when we see his life and we read his biography, whenever he attended a majalis of Imam Hussain alayhi salam, he would always be seen washing dishes. Although he was a celebrated soldier, but yet you would see him in the kitchen cleaning dishes. A sense of humility. So this is one. Number two, when the ignorant address them, وَإِذَا خَاطَبَهُمُ الْجَاهِلُونَ قَالُوا سَلَامًا. When the ignorant people address them, they say salam. So salam here has several meanings. First of all, jahilun is loosely translated as the ignorant ones, the unlettered ones in English. But they say no, it is a person who is unaware, it's a person who is innocent. He's also called jahilun. A person with low emotional intelligence, a person who does not know how to speak in public, for example. And this happens. Conversational intelligence is another criteria that is looked up in the corporate circles just now. So a person with a low emotional intelligence, you come across him and he's just speaking and he hurts your feelings. Qalu salama. Salama, Noman Ali Khan, the Sunni commentator, says one of the meanings of salam is salam, Khudafis. You avoid the situation. Walk away from there. If you feel that you won't be in control of yourself, salam. You leave. But they say no. Salam here means you do not respond in the same way as the person has talked to you. Respond in a more rational way, in a peaceful way, to keep his heart at peace. And we see this in the lives of Ahlul Bayt. The famous story that we tell kids all the time is the story that I heard in madrasa almost 35 years back. But the story has stuck with me. The lady used to throw garbage on the Holy Prophet. And then when she falls sick, Prophet would have taken revenge. But he goes to her house and asks about her. It's a small story that we tell kids, but it's applicable in all forms of life. Qalu salama. It works in marriage. So much garbage spilled on you, qalu salama. Imam Hassan alayhi salam, he also, there's a story of a person coming and accusing him and cursing him. He listens to him and then tells him, it looks like you're a stranger in this place. If you have need of food, if you have need of clothing, you have need of accommodation, I'm here to help you. Qalu salama. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, on the day of Ashura, when Hur approaches him, not that Hur was a jahil, but for that moment he did not know what was going to happen. He was not anticipating what the army of Umar Asad were going to do. But yet when he approaches Imam Hussain alayhi salam, qalu salama. Imam Hussain alayhi salam puts him at peace. So this is what is meant by qalu salama. So first is walking with humility. Second is having the right conversational intelligence or the right approach, a high EQ, emotional intelligence, to respond in the best way possible. This is criteria number 2. وَالَّذِينَ يَبِيتُونَ لِرَبِّهِمْ سُجَّدًا وَقِيَامًا. This is the third characteristic. And they who pass the night prostrating themselves before their Lord and standing. So obviously it's about Salatul Layl. They humbly stand in front of their Lord in the early hours of the morning, in the dark nights. So the sequence here, they say they show humility outside first, and then they show humility in front of their Lord. There are many people who show a lot of humility when they're in front of their Lord. When they're praying with a lot of concentration. But when it comes to their dealings with people, they're not humble. So the sequence here is very important. Humility outside, then humility with their Lord. Mufassirin say that there are characteristics during the daytime when they walk and they talk, and the characteristics at night time when they stand on the musalla and pray. Salatul Layl is a prominent characteristic of Ibadur Rahman. You see it through and through. Imam Hussain alayhi salam, his companions, Bibi Zainab alayhi salam, even in the dark prisons, she would not leave Salatul Layl. Even on the day after Ashura, so Shami Ghariba, the next morning, she prayed Salatul Layl. She would not leave Salatul Layl. And similarly, we see the Shuhadaa. So when I was in Iran, I think 2017, we went to meet one of the war veterans, Agha Sabiri. He was injured in his leg, but he would always weep that I was not granted Shahada. But a very interesting character, and he's a teacher in Qom. So he was relating, he says one of the Mujtahideen, he even mentioned the name, but I don't remember the name for sure. He says one of the Mujtahideen during the Iran-Iraq war thought of visiting the war front and spending one night with the soldiers. He said, I cannot spend more time. He was told, please spend a few more days. It will motivate the soldiers. He says, no, I have some leg problems, so I'm just promising one night. I'll come for one night, tomorrow morning I will leave. So this Mujtahid comes and spends the night. Middle of the night or early part of the morning, he hears sounds of weeping. When he looks out, he sees all the soldiers outside have dug a grave, a shallow grave. They are all standing in their graves and praying Salatul Layl. And this Mujtahid says, I was so touched. And he says, we work for 50, 60, 70 years to attain a station. These people are far ahead of us. These young boys are far ahead of us. Spiritually, they are so elevated. Instead of one night, he spends 3 nights. And he gets inspired by the soldiers. So Salatul Layl, ulamas recommend it, even if it's 5-10 minutes before Fajr prayers. Shias, Sunnis, they all recommend this Salatul Layl. The concept of Tasu'a and Ashura. It's only in Muharram, although we have the 9th and 10th in every Islamic month. 9th of Dhul Hijjah is Yawmul Arafah. 10th of Dhul Hijjah is Eid. But Muharram, it is given that number, Tasu'a and Ashura. Sayyid Basim Tabar in his book, he says Tasu'a comes from the word ittisa, which means growth. So they asked for that one day. Imam Hussain alayhi salam and his companions asked for that one extra day so that they could prepare themselves, they could grow spiritually to be able to withstand what they were going to face on the day of Ashura. And one of the main features of Tasu'a was the prayers that they had in the dark nights, on the dark night of Tasu'a, on the night of Ashura. Even in the Quran, A'udhu Billahi Minash Shaitanir Rajim, chapter 73, Inna nashiyata al-layli hiya ashaddu wat'an wa aqwa muqila. Surely the rising by night, the Prophet is told, surely the rising by night is the firmest way to tread and the best corrective of speech. Something that gives us strength to perform well during the day. Rabbi shrah li sadri. It broadens our chest to be able to withstand the trauma that we may face during the day, be it verbal, be it emotional, be it strain, be it stress. Salatul Layl is one of the best ways to prepare. The next verse says, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا اصْرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمَ إِنَّ عَذَابَهَا كَانَ غَرَامًا إِنَّهَا سَاعَتْ مُسْتَقَرًّا وَمُقَامًا. So these Ibadur Rahman, they have this dua. رَبَّنَا اصْرِفْ عَنَّا عَذَابَ جَهَنَّمَ. Oh Allah, save us from the fire of hell. We don't want to live there. We don't want to spend even a moment there. Surely it is an evil abode and an evil place to stay. This is the common dua that they have on their lips. So ulamas tell us that Jannah and Jahannam is not on the day of judgment, but is moment by moment. It's happening in front of us. People who are enlightened can see Jannah and Jahannam in front of them. So Rabbana asrif anna adhaba Jahannam. Oh Allah, don't let us fall into the pits of hell in our day-to-day lives. Then the next verse says, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا أَنفَقُوا لَمْ يُسْرِفُوا وَلَمْ يَقْتُرُوا وَكَانَ بَيْنَ ذَلِكَ قَوَامًا. And they who when they spend are neither extravagant nor conjuice, parsimonious, that's the English word that has been used, and keep between these a just mean. So they have a balanced lifestyle. So this is another sign. So number one, humility. Number two, I would keep it as EQ or CQ, conversational intelligence. Qalu salama. Number three would be Salatul Layl. They wake up in the early hours of the morning to do sajda and qiyam. Number four is they're generous. They do infaq. Infaq has been interpreted by ulama as filling the gaps. Sometimes we just give sadaqah, we do infaq for our own benefit. Ki bala dur tha se, bala will. So we're just giving infaq. But they say the right form of infaq is you identify a gap in the society and fill it up. That is called infaq. Identifying a gap in society and filling it up is infaq. So they do infaq, but they have a balance. They don't give away everything. There's a balance between extravagance and total conjugacy or miserliness. So they're balanced. They have a good sense of finance. I always admire accountants. Akhil is here. When you see their lives, even the way they lead their lives, very calculative and a balanced form of life. We don't want to go either way. A person like me who doesn't know finance, sometimes when we see money, we get intoxicated. When we don't see money, we get worried. But it's about planning and maintaining a nice, balanced lifestyle. But having the habit of doing infaq, looking out, where are the gaps in society, and filling it up, not necessarily with money, but in kind also, in service. Then another characteristic. وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَدْعُونَ مَعَ اللَّهِ إِلَهًا آخَرَ. One. So this shirk here that has been talked about. وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ وَلَا يَزْنُونَ وَمَنْ يَفْعَلْ ذَلِكَ يَلْقَى أَثَامًا. So three sins have been talked about here. One is shirk, the other is homicide, the third one is zina. And they say these three sins come together, and it's gunah kabira. So Ibadur Rahman would stay away from shirk. Shirk, we've heard Sheikh Sakalashwar from this very podium here talk about shirk. Not the outward shirk, but the hidden shirk that we need to be careful about. Doing things for other than Allah. And most of the time you're all victims. I'm talking about myself, about this shirk. We have to be careful. Ibadur Rahman would have ikhlas in them. They would do things for Allah and Allah only. وَلَا يَقْتُلُونَ النَّفْسَ الَّتِي حَرَّمَ اللَّهُ إِلَّا بِالْحَقِّ. Homicide, killing. When we see soldiers from other armies, there was a whole presentation that I had done on Prince Harry when he talked about his time in Afghanistan, whereby he said he saw some enemies and just eliminated them. And all the crimes, war crimes that have been committed, we see it on a daily basis happening in Israel and Palestine. Sorry, not Israel, occupied Palestine. People, innocent people being killed. And zina, it's all over the place, and it's going beyond that now. Zina has become so common, now we have other crises in the community. So Ibadur Rahman would stay away from these three traits. And zina is not only adultery when we think about zina or physical zina, but ulamas talk about zina of the eyes, zina of the ears, zina of the hands, a dirty look. So there's a book by the name of 3 Minutes of Judgment. It's been written by a war veteran who had a near-death experience, and he's written about his whole experience. So one of the sections, towards the end, he says, they were on the way to Syria to fight recently. And he was with two other soldiers. When they went to Syria, they got martyred and he did not attain martyrdom. And when he asked, he was told that when you are leaving, you're on the airport going towards Syria. On the airport, a na-mahram passed. This person said, I looked, but the other two turned their faces away. So the ulamas tell him that every dirty look, which is zina of the eyes, delays your martyrdom by 6 months. So if you want to attain martyrdom, if that is the goal, he says every dirty look, which is zina of the eyes, will delay your martyrdom by 6 months. When I look at myself, we are doomed. Martyrdom was something that was given to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, which was granted to Imam Hussain alayhi salam, as we recited in Ziyat Arbaeen yesterday. That he was given Shuhadaa. Shuhadaa is a gift. When we lead a virtuous life, we lead a life of Ibadur Rahman, then martyrdom is granted. Then next, وَالَّذِينَ لَا يَشْهَدُونَ الزُّورَ وَإِذَا مَرُّوا بِاللَّغْوِ مَرُّوا كِرَامًا. And they who do not bear witness to what is false, and when they pass by what is vain, they pass by it nobly. So they cannot withstand falsehood. They would not be a witness to a false, something wrong happening in the society. That is also being mentioned by the ulama here. Or oppression. But ulamas also say they would not attend false gatherings. Gatherings in which, so zur here has been also mentioned as gatherings in which we have music. Music or personalities who are known for nudity or for their poor characteristics or for poor morals. So the Ibadur Rahman would not even go into these gatherings. They would stay away from it. They would not participate. And people, and they would show so much disgust, and if they would have the power, they would speak against it. This is a characteristic of an Ibadur Rahman. Then, وَالَّذِينَ إِذَا ذُكِرُوا بِآيَاتِ رَبِّهِمْ لَمْ يَخِرُّوا عَلَيْهَا صُمًّا وَعُمْيَانًا. And they who, when reminded of the communications of their Lord, they do not fall down, therefore deaf and blind. When an eye of Allah is shown to them, they do not ignore it. They don't fall on it, deaf and blind. So they are always looking out for the ayat of Allah and take lessons from it. They would not cover it. They would not give it a blind ear. They would not give it a deaf ear. They would not give it a blind eye. We're living in times whereby we have phones. All of us have phones in our hands. And there's so much that we see. There were times when news was not spreading that fast. Whatever a person would see would only be in his own locality. But now what is happening on the other side of the globe is available to us. So the hadith of the seventh holy Imam, Imam Musa Kadhim alayhi salam, Allahumma salli ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. ما من شيء تراه عينيك إلا وفيه موعظة. There is nothing seen by your eye, but it has a lesson in it. Whatever is shown to us, there are no coincidences in life. For us to meet here, for us to sit in front of each other, when we walk on the street, whatever is shown to us, there's always a lesson in it for us. We just have to be vigilant, alert, take lessons from it, and that's a sign of Ibadur Rahman. He's always alert. We are told there are two characteristics or three characteristics that we can learn from a crow. We have crows all around. The first bird that we hear in the morning is a crow. Three lessons that a person can learn from a crow. One is to wake up early in the morning. They wake up very early. Number two, they are always alert. If you see a crow, unlike other birds, they are always alert. And number three, they don't mate in public. They have a lot of sharm, they have a lot of haya. You'll never see crows mating in public. Crows have it, we don't have it. Okay? They are already implementing these qualities of Ibadur Rahman. They have already mentioned all these three in these qualities. So we need to learn. When we look at a crow, we need to learn a lesson. This is a sign of Allah in front of us. We need to learn. And the last one says, the last sign of Ibadur Rahman, وَالَّذِينَ يَقُولُونَ رَبَّنَا هَبْ لَنَا مِنْ أَزْوَاجِنَا وَذُرِّيَّاتِنَا قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ وَاجْعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ إِمَامًا. And they who say, this is their dua, O our Lord, grant us in our wives and our offspring the joy of our eyes, قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ, and make us the guides to those who guard against evil. قُرَّةَ أَعْيُنٍ, Mufassirin say, it could come from the word qar, which means coolness, cold, barid, bard. So they said the cold tears are tears of joy. The warm tears are the tears of sorrow. So make my spouse and my children the coolness of my eyes, the joy of my eyes. Or qarar, it comes from the word qarar, which means settlement, establishment, or fixedness. So make my family the calmness of my eyes, so that I'm so settled and I'm so happy that I don't have to look around me at other families. Yes, if you want to learn lessons, but you're always on the lookout. Facebook and Instagram, and it has extended now. You're always looking at other people's lives. But make my spouse and my children such that I'm so happy once I come home, I don't need to look out. Just want to spend time with them. The coolness of my eyes. Qurrata a'yun. And ulama say the best way is when you see your spouse and your children being religious. Of course, you being religious yourself, working hard to create a religious environment in the house. And when you see them religious, this is the coolness of one's eye when he sees his own family. So sometimes seeing our family affluent, our children being affluent or successful in their careers, sometimes we feel this is going to give us the coolness of our eyes. But ulama say, no, it's the religiosity. When they're close to Allah, when they have taqwa, then even if they're not very successful in their professional lives, even if they're not very successful when it comes to finances, but just the taqwa is enough to create that coolness in the eyes of a person. And when you look at the lives of the ulama, of the shuhada, they gave so much importance to their families. Most of the biographies of the shuhada have been written by their spouses. I Miss Shamran has been written by his wife. The Lebanese wife has written a whole book about Mustafa Shamran for the few years that she was married to him. Mohsen Hujaj's biography has been written by many people, but the main contributor has been his wife. And similarly, ulamas also. Ayatollah Fatimiyan, marhum, he's given so many sermons on the value of family life. When his wife was asked, what do you want to say about Agha? He says he was the same person on the minbar and at home. His characteristic was the same. That's how careful he was. When he was standing in front of people, his character was the same as his character at home. Ayatollah Khamenei has written a whole book, The Compassionate Family, Qurrata Ayun, how to make your spouse and your children the coolness of your eyes. So these are the characteristics of Ibadur Rahman. We need to start working on them. Humility, EQ, conversational intelligence, Qalu Salama, Salatul Layl. We need to start working on this. Try to be generous. We do infaq. We stay away from shirk and zina and homicide, murder. We stay away from lahu. Anything that is not rational, we stay away from it. When we see the ayahs of Allah, we see the signs of Allah, we are vigilant and we look at them and we take lessons. We are not blind and we are not deaf to the signs of Allah. And of course, make an effort to make our families and our children and our spouses the qurrata a'yun, the coolness of our eyes. وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ imama. Then we are foremost. We are always making so much effort that we are amongst the sabiqun. We are the leaders, people are following us. We are always ahead when it comes to doing these things. وَإِمَامُ الْمُتَّقِينَ وَجَعَلْنَا لِلْمُتَّقِينَ imama. If we have understood this qurrata a'yun, and we've understood the value of being the qurrata a'yun for our parents, but having a family which is also the coolness of our eyes, having a spouse who is the coolness of our eyes. If we realize the importance of this and we start working on it, only then will we understand the pain that Imam Ali alayhi salam went through after the death of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. Bibi Fatima alayhi salam and the children of Imam Ali alayhi salam were the qurrata ayun for Imam Ali alayhi salam. When they were shown the future, the Prophet would weep on seeing what is going to happen to his qurrata ayun on the plains of Karbala. When Imam Ali and Bibi Fatima alayhi salam were shown what was going to happen on the plains of Karbala, the qurrata ayun. But the saddest part is the qurrata a'yun of Imam Ali alayhi salam, Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. So Kulaini reports that when Fatima salamullahi alayha departed from this world, when she passed away, Amirul Mu'minin alayhi salam buried her secretly and removed all traces of her grave. And then when he rested his hands on her grave, grief overcame him. After burying Bibi Fatima alayhi salam, he puts his hand on the grave of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. He was overcome by grief. This was his qurrata a'yun that he had lost. And tears started running down his cheeks. He then stood up and turned towards the grave of the Holy Prophet. And he says, "Peace be on you, O Messenger of God. Greetings on my behalf and on behalf of your beloved daughter, who is now in your presence. She rests under the earth near you, for God desired that she should meet you swiftly. O Rasulullah, after the passing away of your daughter, my fortitude has come to an end, and my self-control has been severely tried. I can only draw strength from the memory of the forbearance that I exercised when I lost you, Ya Rasulallah. Did I not lay your face on the earth with my own hands? Did you not draw your last breath while you lay on my chest? Indeed, I fully accept the Quranic pronouncement that Inna Lillahi wa Inna Ilayhi Raji'un. Imam Ali alayhi salam is complaining to the Holy Prophet. Now the trust has been restored to its owner. Fatimatu Zahra is no more. And how, O Messenger of God, Rasulullah, bleak are the skies and the earth after her passing. My grief shall never abate. My nights shall never remain. My nights shall remain restless. And my heart shall remain ever sorrowful until God allows me to rest next to you. Indeed, this is a wound that has torn the heart and a pain that will stay forever. This is the pain in the heart of Imam Ali alayhi salam on losing his qurrata a'yun. On losing his qurrata a'yun. How quickly our time together was brought to an end. I complain only to God. Soon your daughter will inform you about how your nation conspired together to torment her. So ask her whatever you want and understand the state of affairs from her. How blood boiled in the veins, yet there was no way to give vent to the frustration. Yes, she will relate it all, and Allah will judge. Indeed, Allah is the best of judges. May God keep you, O Rasulullah. I bid farewell to you, but not out of weariness. If I depart from here, it is not out of indifference. And if I linger, it is not because I am unmindful of God's promise to those who are patient. Oh, patience is better and more worthy. And had I not been concerned about the oppressors claiming victory, I would have remained at this graveside forever, mourning this great loss. Imam Ali alayhi salam doesn't want to leave the grave of Bibi Fatima alayhi salam. God is witness that I place your daughter under the earth, while the people steal her rights and consume her inheritance, even though not more than a few days have elapsed since you passed away, and the people still mention you. I complain, O Messenger of God, to Allah. May He bless you and Fatima to Zahra and be pleased with you both. Ala la'natullahi ala al-qawmi al-zalimin. Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. O Allah, on this blessed night of Thursday, enable us to understand who Imam Hussein alayhi salam is, and enable us to walk on his footsteps, to walk on the footsteps of the ashab of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, and of the role models who are around us. May Allah enable us to study their lives, the Ibadur Rahman of our times, study their lives, take lessons, implement it in our lives. And with the barakah of these months, of these holy months, and with the barakah of this Thursday night, may Allah enable us to practice it and become one of the Ibadur Rahman, insha'Allah. وَسَيَعْلَمُ الَّذِينَ ظَلَمُوا أَيَّ مَنْقَلَبٍ يَنْقَلِبُونَ إِنَّا لِلَّهِ وَإِنَّا إِلَيْهِ رَاجِعُونَ إِنَّ اللَّهَ وَمَلَائِكَتَهُ يُصَلُّونَ عَلَى النَّبِيِّ يَا أَيُّهَا الَّذِينَ آمَنُوا صَلُّوا عَلَيْهِ وَسَلِّمُوا تَسْلِيمًا اللهم صل على